let's see that journey to the end of the earth. So Trishani Doshi's written this particular one, which is giving us a kind of some French term. Do you? I don't know whether you have known about some of the foreign French word. That's something called as bonjour, bonnuit, bonsoir, and do you know that bon bun bonjour bonjour. Bonjour means called as a means good greetings to somebody. That may be called as a good morning. Like we say bonnuit. Bonnuit means good noon, or called as a bon voyage. That's called as a voyage means a journey, and bon means good. And you also say that bon homie. So even there are lots of phrases you would find out, clauses you would find out. So, and they are considered as the French term. And this journey to the end of the earth is indicating that means indicating about to know the planet's past, right, present and future. So if you want to know about it, then where you have to go? Antarctica is the place to go to. And means one must have a kind of a, kind of a passion for moving here and there. So one must be, euphoria in nature, enjoying the pleasant in nature. So the lesson, um, journey to the end of the earth introduces or called as means moves around the world's most safest place, right? Safest place means what? Something which have been kept for long years, right? Or called as a means uh, which has been saved. It's called as Antarctica. Not many people have been there, but out of the few that have, right? So, means you could say that all the people cannot reach to that place, but means out of that, few have been to that place. And we are talking about this chapter where means Trishani Doshi, right? So, who is considered that one of them who visited to that place? So, Trishani Doshi, a South Indian person, who went on an, expedition. What do you mean by expedition? That's called as a journey. Who went on an expedition or called as a journey with a group of teenagers. Teenagers means called as young boys and girls affiliated with the Students on Ice program, right? Like you know that many of the international schools and colleges means take their students to different places in the name of study tour excursion, right? Like that, Trishani Doshi, right, who also went with some of the teenagers or a group of teenagers means affiliated with the Students on Ice program, right? And the purpose of this program is to take young minds to different ends of the world. So, nurturing the young minds, nurturing the young minds means here it refers to the teenagers' mind to different end of the world. Therefore, the topic gives an insight, means a deep picture into how Antarctica is the place you should visit to have a, look of that, look of the past, present, and future in its realist form, actual form, right? This is what you would find out in this story actually. So I'll just quickly go to the gist of this particular text, and then after we will discuss the bit by bit, if possible, if time permits us. So otherwise, we will continue in the next class. So journey to the end is uh, journey to the end of the earth is indicating about what? Means a woman's writing or woman's traveling to Antarctica from Madras. So it takes 9 times, you can say that 9 times zones, 6 checkpoints. It takes 9 times zones, 6 checkpoints, and 3 water bodies, and just as many ecospheres to reach there. So Doshi, right? Trishani Doshi, so who traveled to the southern end of the earth along with an expedition or called as a means journey group, right? Named Students on Ice, that provides an opportunity to the young minds to feel towards the realistic version of the means weather changes happening in the world. According to the founder of the organization, so what is that means organization that called as the Students on Ice? According to the founder of the organization, so they stated that they were at means they were the young versions of future policymakers, so who can change the situation present around them. Antarctica is one of the you can say that coldest, driest, and windiest continent in the world. So what Antarctica is all about? Now, coldest, windiest, and driest continents in the world. As far as the eye can see, eyes means as far as one's eyes can see, it is completely white and it's not interrupted blue horizon that gives huge relief. You also find out it is shocking to believe that India and Antarctica, they were part of the same, supercontinent. So, uh, continent, and that's called as a Gondwana, that got separated into countries, giving rise to the globe that we know today. Antarctica had a kind of an environmental condition. It's a warmer climate means until then. Until then means when we talk about the kind of means situation. So it is also stated that despite the human civilization, right, around the globe. So despite human civilization around the globe, it means the Antarctica still remains in it pure, a warmer climate, right? So, and pure in form. Being a South Indian worshipping guy, it was not imaginable for the author to visit the place, right, that constitute world's 90% of the earth, 90% of ice. A place that is so quiet that it is only interrupted by snow avalanches. Snow avalanches. So you would find out it is quiet, but the only sound that you find out coming out from the snow avalanches. So it is home to a lot of evidences that can give us a clear picture or some memory of the past, and at the same time Antarctica helps us to see the future. The place gives an awakening, means it gives us the kind of alertness, and indicating that to understand the threatening alarm that global warming is actually real. So I could say that who knows if Antarctica will be means warm again and again and again. And even if means it does, so how does it hamper to the rest part of the world, right? So this is what the kind of a question that the author means leaves at the end of the story, right? So it's not the kind of a means story we could say that it's a kind of an experience that means Trishani Doshi, right, felt and put it on a paper, right? So it is his experience that she beautifully narrated in the form of this. So while you read this, you would find out some kind of means uh, term, and for that one has to be means uh, one has to be read the text in between the lines. In between the lines means understanding the deeper part present in the text. Okay, so we could say that simply it is the elaborative ideas related to the means the place Antarctica, right? And how means the writers visit to that place and her experience to that place is beautifully elaborated in this story, right? So that is what means we would discuss in the next class. Okay.
Yes.
So we will discuss only means I just give you a brief introduction to this about Trishani Doshi and means who and the chapter Journey to the End of the Earth. So let's come to the topic Journey to the End of the Earth. Um, we had started the some idea about the chapter. Um, it could be considering as the summary of it. Um, if we talk about the topic Journey to the End of the Earth, so the main theme of the story is um, nothing but talking about Trishani's journey, right? Trishani's journey to Antarctica, which is described as the coldest, driest, and windiest continent in the world, and how the impact of human activities can be studied by visiting to that particular place, right? That is what called as the main theme of the topic. Uh, if you observe that, uh, what is the moral even? The moral of the story Journey to the End of the Earth uh, is indicating about duties are duties and they have to be accomplished, right? So, and here Trishani's journey to the uh, particular place, indicating that how means she is very concerned for the means or she is concerned for the environment, and you could say that she is trying to present the idea before the society and before the world that we are in kind of a in a kind of a condition, right? So that leads to leads to uh, dangerous or called as a means a kind of a blessing. It all depends upon means the human being, right? So let me start the passage. The passage begins with the idea called as a uh, the the writer Trishani pointed here. Early this year, I found myself aboard a Russian research vessel. So the academic Sokolsky, heading towards the coldest, driest, windiest continent in the world, Antarctica. My journey began 13.09 degrees north of the equator in Madras and involved the crossing 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water, and at least as many ecospheres. So here the word ecospheres means that indicate about uh, parts of the universe habitable by living organisms. Now, at the beginning of the passage, the author talks about her journey to one of the means coldest, driest, and windiest continent on Earth. So, which is known as Antarctica. So she pointed that she went there on a Russian research vessel, right, known as the academic Sokolskaya. That is what she pointed, like the academic Sokolskaya. What is that? Now, means you can say that a Russian research vessel. So the author is a South Indian woman. I think means she is. It is she, right? Trishani is a she, right? Isn't it? Are you there, Aditi?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir, I'm there and said yes also.
okay. So the the author pointed that means she is a South Indian who began her journey from Madras, and on her journey means she crossed 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints. So, like while going to the particular place, what are the means things she faced? That's what she pointed. She crossed 9 times zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 water bodies, and just as many means you can say that parts of the universe are habitable living organisms, right? By the time I actually set foot on the Antarctica continent or Antarctic continent, I had been traveling over 100 hours in a combination of a car, an aeroplane, and a ship. So my first emotion on facing Antarctica's expansive means called as a huge white landscape, and the uninterrupted or called as something which is continued blue horizon was a relief. So means followed up with an immediate and huge wonder, right? Intense or very great wonder or profound wonder. Wonder at its immensity. Immensity means called as a huge. Its isolation, loneliness, but mainly at how there could ever have been a time when India and Antarctica were part of the same landmass. Now, what did she want to convey actually? She wanted to convey that the place which is covering a wide area in terms of space or scope, right? So it took her about 100 hours of combined different medium of transportation, car, aeroplane, and a ship to reach that continent. So she pointed that when she first set her feet on the continent, means she felt utmost a relief, right? So why? Now, for it was all white everywhere, as far as means she could see uh, any part of the land. She also found out the sight of the blue horizon. That was also very relaxing, comforting for her. She also find out the emotion that followed was wonderment or something like amazed. She was surprised means by the fact that there was once a time when India and Antarctica were geographically connected, right? But 650 million years ago, a giant means called as a huge, amalgamated means called as a mixed, right? So, or merge. Southern supercontinent, Gondwana, did indeed exist, centered roughly around the present day Antarctica. Things were quite different then. Humans had not arrived on the global scene. And the climate was much warmer, hosting a huge variety of flora and fauna. for 500 million years. Gondwana thrived or called as a prospered, but around the time when the dinosaurs were wiped out and the age of mammals got underway, the landmass was forced to separate into countries, shaping the globe much as we know it today. So, to visit Antarctica now is to be a part of that history, to get a hold up where we have come from and where we could possibly be heading. Means talking about the future. It's to understand the importance of means Cordilleran folds and Precambrian granite shield, ozone and carbon, evolution and extinction. When you think about all that, or when you think about all that can happen in a million years, it can get pretty mind-boggling. So when you talk about mind-boggling, it's called as a startling or called as exciting, overwhelming. So imagine India pushing northwards, jamming against Asia to buckle its crust and form the Himalayas. South America drifting off or floating up to join North America, opening up the Drake passes to create a cold circumpolar current, keeping Antarctica frigid, desolate, and at the bottom of the world. So the writer Trishani here stated that how means the condition of that place was in the million years of ago. There was a supercontinent known as Gondwana, right? So from which Antarctica and India are supposed to have been separated. The situation, however, was completely different from how it is right now, right? So at the time and now, it was completely different. There were no humans at that time, and the climate was warmer, which gave rise to a huge variety of flora and fauna. Gondwana, the place which was also flourished from for 500 million years. So, and until the dinosaurs who got extinct or killed or disappeared, and human beings came into existence. The huge continent was then, means in the past, 500 million years ago, so forced into separation from countries and the world as we know of it today. So that's what the means author pointed, that what happened in the million years ago and what means is happening at the moment. So at the means you can say that past, so we would find out that the condition was means savvy, the condition was means soothe for the flora and fauna, right? So the condition was means appropriate for the big or giant animals, but once they were eliminated, right? So and the climate was means completely odd in the sense. So it makes a kind of a idea that what it was separated from the countries and from the world. It is also stated that according to the author, if one wants to have a means a picture of history and from where we have originated along with where we are heading towards, Antarctica is the right place, as it is the best place to research and understand about means a mountain range and low elevation continents, ozone layer means which is actually protecting, and carbon, evolution, extinction. So these are the things which the author pointed while when she visited to that place, and she was just exciting to discover a couple of things in that particular place. So her pointing about the Cordilleran folds, it means called as a the place Antarctica was nothing but filled with extensive chain of mountains or mountain ranges. That is what called as a Cordilleran folds. Cordilleran, Cordilleran folds. The author also stated about large area of a comparatively low elevation that forms part of continental masses. That is what known as a Precambrian granite shells, right? So the author also pointed about the environmental condition is frigid. It's called as a very cold in temperature, right? And it also indicates that the place is desolate in nature. Desolate means called as a means impression of bleak emptiness or called as a no inhabitation, right? So the author pointed it is capable of giving a kind of a picture of the future, and that can be really exciting. For a sun worshipping South Indian like myself, the author means pointed that for a sun worshipping South Indian like myself, 2 weeks in a place where 90% of the Earth's total ice volumes are stored. The authors means mentioned about her present in that place for the kind of a days called as a 2 weeks, and stated that 90% of the Earth's total ice volumes are stored is a chilling prospect. Chilling prospect means what? Means a kind of a exciting, right? And also feeling the kind of a cold for the future. Not just for circulatory and metabolic function, but also for the imagination. It is like walking into a giant ping pong ball devoid of any human markers, no trees, no billboards, no buildings. You lose all earthly sense of perspective and time here. The picture or the visual scale ranges from the microscopic to the mighty, midges and mites to blue whales and icebergs as big as countries. The largest recorded was the size of Belgium. Days go on and on is surreal 24-hour austral summer light and a ubiquitous silence. Now see that the kind of words which have been pointed, which are creating nothing but the difficult to interpret the meaning of the author. Interpreted only by the occasional avalanche or calving ice sheet consecrates the place. It's an immersion that will force you to place yourself in the context of the Earth's geological history. And for humans, the prognosis that called as the forecast of the outcome of a situation. The prognosis is not good. So according to the author, means it is for humans, the future is not a good outcome, right? So the author pointed that it was very different experience for her, for her as the South Indian. As she pointed that as being a South Indian sun worshipping man or woman, right, it was difficult for her or anyone to imagine living in a place where 90% of the Earth's total ice volumes are stored. Not only means biologically or physically difficult, right, but also for means imaginative purpose. The the author stated that it is a place untouched by humans and their invention, right? It gives an experience that makes you forget about all the other things, from small creatures like midges and mites, right? So these are the creatures, and to huge creatures like blue whales and icebergs as big as countries. Everything can be found in Antarctica. So days are never ending with sunlight all the time falling on the southern hemisphere. It is such a quiet place, means interrupted only by falling mass of snow rapidly down a mountain, right? So it is a setting that forces you to think about the Earth's geological history. Geology means called as a study of Earth history and helps you to see the future. So that doesn't seem like a pleasant or good, right? So the writer stated that Means it is a chilling prospect for her. It is like means moving into a giant, big ping pong ball, so that if you throw, it will come back to you, right? And devoid of any human markers. So because that place is not having the kind of things that you find out in your urban area, like trees are there, rural areas, trees are there, billboards are there, buildings are there, but you don't find out there those of the things. So you don't find out that it is nothing, it is earth. So the ugly sense you will lose, right? So it is also stated that the picture, right, from the microscopic means called as a very small, small creature to the mighty means called as a huge. So the author gives the example of midges and mites, which are called as a small creatures, whereas whales, which are called as a mighty one. And the author also stated about icebergs called the big mountains as big as countries. So the author's comparison icebergs with the uh, some of the countries. Even author also mentioned about uh, means one of the mountains was the size of the Belgium. So author stated that days go on and on is a surreal, right? So it seems like means bizarre or called as a boring 24-hour austral summer light. Austral summer light means that's something called as a southern hemisphere, right? So having with a kind of a dayboard light, and a ubiquitous means everywhere. Ubiquitous means everywhere. Everywhere you would find out the kind of a silence is present. And means unending, right? Or called as interval only by the occasional avalanche. So if you find out the silence is everywhere, but sometimes what happened, there is an interruption, and that interruption occurs because of the avalanche. Avalanche means called as a snow slide, right? Or calving ice sheet, that called as a split and shed of the ice. So ice sheet. So consecrates the place means that makes nothing but a or a kind of a declaration of purity. It is an immersion that will force you to place yourself. Immersion means what? It is something called as a submerged under the water, and that force you that your place, that force you your place. And that stated that where you are present in the geological history, right? And for humans, it's nothing but a kind of a means a kind of a future warning, you can say. So human civilization have been around for a paltry. Paltry means called as unimportant. For human civilization, you will find out have been around for a paltry 12,000 years. So means petty and unimportant 12,000 years, barely a few seconds on the geological clock. So means we hardly look at the geological thought or thinking about the earth, right? In that short amount of time, we have managed to create quite a raucous, right? Create quite a raucous. Raucous means called as a conflict, row, or called as a common. And also means we etching called as engraved our dominance over nature. So we try to, show our power, superiority over the man's nature with our villages, towns, cities, mega cities, big cities, the rapid increase of human populations that uh, that have left us means battling with other species for limited resources. We also try to get back all our things. Now these are the things are indicating about the negative sides of the human being means towards the nature, right? So, and the unmitigated, that called as unmitigated means unconditional, means uses of the fossil fuels, burning of fossil fuels. So these are the things now created a blanket of carbon dioxide around the world. So the things which you can talk about fossil fuels are called as means killing to unnecessary killing the means animals unnecessarily. So these are nothing but considering that helpful to the world, but which is slowly but surely increasing the average global temperature, right? The kind of means attitude we show towards the nature. So obviously it has the result, and the result is slowly but surely, right? Will do what? Increase the average global temperature, and also in indicating the kind of a means negative feedback. So that's what the author started saying here, that human life on Earth has been since uh, petty for the people 12,000 years, which change into few seconds on the geological clock. In merely means this less time, humans have managed to, exploit each and every resource present in the world, thereby creating a kind of a means a maze with the nature and in the nature. So, and the ever increasing human population, which is nothing but a big matter, so is rubbing other spaces, or means killing, destroying other spaces for the necessities of the human population for survival. Not to forget about the unlimited exploitation of fossil fuels that have created a blanket of carbon dioxide around our planet, and which is further increasing the average temperature. And therefore, we are leading towards means global warming in the coming generation or coming era. So the author again introduces means a new subtopic, that climate change is one of the most hotly contested environmental debates of our time. Yes, climate change, called as a kind of a hottest and also contested environmental debates of our time. Will the West Antarctic ice sheet melt entirely? So will the Gulf Stream ocean current be disrupted? Will it be the end of the world as we know it? Maybe, or maybe not. So now the author puts 3 to 4 questions here and stated that possibly or possibly not. Either way, Antarctica is a crucial element in this debate. So means whatever you talk about, whether you talk about environmental debates, right? Uh, Whether you talk about West Antarctic ice sheet melt or not, Gulf Stream ocean, or called as a means the ending of the world, right? In all these cases, you would find out that Antarctica is a kind of a topic definitely related in the debate, not just because it is the only place in the world which has never sustained a human population. So it is a place in the world which has never sustained a human population, means you would means hardly you would hardly found means people there, and therefore remains comparatively purity, right? In this respect, pristine means called as a purity. But more importantly, because it holds, so Antarctica holds in its ice cores 500,000 year old carbon records trapped in its layers of ice, right? If we want to study and examine the Earth's past, present, and future, Antarctica is the place to go, right? So the authors thought about global warming and climate change means giving a high priority uh, to these days. So talking about melting Antarctic sheet, disruption means Gulf Stream ocean, and ending of world. So which are unanswered, not been answered yet. So regardless, Antarctica remains an important part of it, not only because of people live not live in this part, but also because of the ice cores, means which have been considered that half million year old carbon records trapped in its layers of ice. And according to the author, means if one wishes to study and analyze Earth's past, present, and future, Antarctica is the place to go. So definitely, if you're researching, then you must visit to this place. So the author stated that students on ice, the program I was working with on the Soka Sky, aims to do exactly this by taking high school students to the ends of the world, right? And providing them with inspiring educational opportunities which will help them foster means called as a nurture, right? Or taking care, a new understanding and respect for our planet. It has been in operation for 6 years now, headed by Canadian Geoff Green, right? So who got tired of carting? So uh, cutting or decorating celebrities and retired rich curiosity seekers who could only give back in a limited way. With students on ice, means she offers the future generation of policymakers a life-changing experience at an age when they are ready to observe, learn, and most importantly, act. So, in this particular context, the author has been uh, obviously present in Antarctica, uh, with the school students. It is nothing but called as a kind of a excursion or study tour or an expedition, right? So means students on ice. It is a program that takes, means according to her, the program's main objective is taking the young mind to the ends of the world and helping them, inspiring them to work towards their planets or our planets. So she pointed that it was all started with the kind of a goal of providing life-changing experience. So to a life-changing experience to whom? Now to the future generation of policymakers, those who are making policy, to learn about the planet at a very early age. And the initiatives was introduced by whom? Means who have started this actually? Geoff Green. So who is he? Now, a person who got tired of his regular job, uh, and he was a rich and wanted to give back in same way. So the author stated the reason the program has been so successful is because it's impossible to go anywhere near the South Pole and not be affected by it. It is easy to be, biased about polar ice caps melting while sitting in the comfort zone, or means called as a blame about polar ice caps melting while sitting in the comfort zone of our respective latitude and longitude. But when you can visibly see glaciers retreating and ice shelves collapsing, you begin to realize that the threat of global warming is very real, right? Now, look into it. So, what is the means, idea the author pointed? Now, the author pointed this is the program, right? Means that has been called as a huge successful in implementing what? Now, the goal that has been seen by the way people get affected by seeing the real situation, because it is very easy to sit at home and talk about the real issues, right? But actually seeing the situation means here, glaciers retreating and ice shelves are collapsed or burst. So that gives you, or it gives you a glimpse or picture into the future. So that realizes what will be our future and where we are heading. It tells you that the very threat of global warming is definitely or real, right? So Antarctica, because of our simple ecosystem and lack of biodiversity, right? So Antarctica is the perfect place to study how small changes or little changes in the environment can have a big repercussions. Now, when you talk about repercussions, that called as a means uh, result. Take the microscopic, the author stated that take the microscopic phytoplankton, those grasses of the sea that uh, develops and survive the entire southern ocean's food chain. These single-celled plants use the sun's energy to, assimilate or gather carbon and synthesize or transform organic compounds in that wondrous and most important of processes called photosynthesis. So scientists warn that a further decreasing or depletion in the ozone layer will affect the activities of means these phytoplankton, which in turn will affect the lives of all the marine animals and birds of the region and the global carbon cycle. In the parable of the phytoplankton, there is a great, comparison for existence. So the author stated that take care of the small things and the big things will fall into place. So it is the kind of a tone that the author presented here is nothing but a kind of a suggestive one, advisable one, advisory one. So according to the writer, it is one of those places with limited biodiversity, right? And therefore, means it has a less complicated ecosystem. It doesn't have a kind of a complicated ecosystem or less complicated ecosystem. And therefore, or for consequence, no changes in its environment can have a bad effect, right? So the author gives the example of the microscopic phytoplankton. So what they are actually, now they are grasses of the sea that sustains or survives the entire southern ocean's food chain. But the problem is called as now it has been recently concluded by scientists that means in future it is going to decrease in the ozone layer, and that affect the activities of this single-celled plants and affect the marine life too altogether. Therefore, in this case, it is truly stated that if you take care the small things, so if you take care of these small things, then definitely big things will fall into place. That justifies here. Now the question comes out here, means how do you justify the idea which is stated in the text that take care of the small things and the big things will fall into place? So you could take the example of this ecosystem of the uh, place called as Antarctica and stated about means how there is a change. There is no change in environment, but slowly and gradually, if the ozone layer depleted, then definitely it will affect the single-celled plants present here and affect the marine life altogether. So that will be the means idea. And the author's suggestion is called as we need to take care of our ozone layer, right? So not to allow to deplete the ozone layer, right, which have the huge effect the activities of this single site. Now after this means the author stated about to walk on the ocean, right? So the author stated my Antarctic experience was full of such epiphanies, right? But the best occurred just sort of the Antarctic Circle at 65.55 degrees south. The Sokolsky had managed to wedge herself into a thick white stretch of ice between the peninsula and Tadpole Island, which was stopping us from going any further. The captain decided we were going to turn around and head back north. But before we did that, we were all instructed to climb down the gangplank and walk on the ocean. So there we were, all 52 of us. So how many? You can say 52. Kitted out in Gore-Tex and glades, walking on a stark whiteness that seemed to spread out forever. Underneath our feet was a meter thick ice pack, and underneath that 180 meters of living, breathing salt water. In the periphery, crabiters, seals were stretching and sunning themselves on ice floes, much like stray dogs will do under the shade of a banana tree. It was nothing short of a revelation. Everything does indeed connect. So 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water, and many ecosphere later. I was still wondering about the beauty of balance in play on our planet. How would it be if Antarctica were to become the warm place that it once used to be? Will we be around to see it? Or would we have gone the way of the dinosaurs, mammoths, and woolly rhinos? Who's to say? But after spending 2 weeks with a bunch of teenagers who still have the means set up ideas or believe of set up ideas to set the world, all I all I can say is that a lot can happen in a million years. But what a difference a day makes, right? Okay. So, now her Antarctica experience was full of such epiphanies. So, what do you mean by epiphanies?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, a kind of a divine, you can say that manifestation of a divine or supernatural beings. So that's what she pointed, that her Antarctica experience was full of such divine. But the best part, just short of the Antarctic circle at 65.55 degrees south, right? So it's something called as a, for all it took for her to travel means Madras to Antarctica, right? And she pointed the means kind of a what do you say that kind of a distance she measure or she cover. She stated that means she came with the those of the means tender age kids. She pointed that the Sokolskaya had managed to wedge herself into a thick white stretch of ice between the peninsula and Tadpole Island. So white stretch of ice between the peninsula and Tadpole Island means that's something called as a covering. So all the parts are covered with the nothing but ice sheet, right? So which was stopping us from going any further. So she also pointed the captain decided we were going to turn around and head back towards the north. So why means they decided to turn around and head back north because means the place was filled with the ice sheets or means stretch of ice between the two means island peninsula and Tadpole. So but before we did, we were all instructed to climb down the gangplank and walk on the ocean. So there we were, all 52 of us. So 52 means it is indicating the number of means members, right? So when the writer stated that they had managed to wage herself, so it means called as a they had managed their position, or you can say that means uh, you can say that they were putting themselves into a kind of a situation where they able to means rescue. So it is also stated means they kitted out in Gore-Tex and Glades. Now, what do you mean by kitted out actually? Kitted out in Gore-Tex and Glades, walking on a stark whiteness that seemed to spread out forever. Uh, and then after it is stated, underneath our feet was a meter thick ice pack. So she was simply describing about means the situation that they went through. Her pointing is called as means, and underneath that 180 meters of living, breathing salt water. So where they were, so they found out that means The ice stretch was covered everywhere. They had to climb. So second thing is called as they found out means under the ice sheets the water was there and which was called as a salt water, right? And in the periphery crater sills were stretching and sunning themselves on ice floes, much like stray dogs will do. Stray dogs means that called as a uh, it's a kind of a comparison, right? Crab eaters seals were stretching and sunning themselves on ice floats, much like stray dogs. So stray dogs are comparing with the means gathering of or group of crab eater seals, right? So it is also state that stray dogs will do under the shade of a banyan tree. So likewise, the crab eater seal were also packed in a one particular place. It was nothing short of a means uh, discover. Everything does indeed connect. So the discovery is what? Now how the things are connected to one another and that allow the author as well as the members present means experience. So at the end of it, the author stated that how 9 times zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water, and many ecospheres later. So she was still wondering about the beauty of balance, means the kind of surrounding she faced. Still, she means she was wondering about the beauty of balance in play on our planet. How would it be if Antarctica were to become the warm place? So she was just imagining, right? She wondered that what it would be like if Antarctica, the place that houses over 90% of world's ice, means come back into a kind of a situation that it was earlier, right? So what was it in earlier that called as a warm? So she wonders if we will be there to see it if it ever happens. But she also makes a kind of a means optimism in her thought or hopeful in her thought that she pointed when seeing the spirit of teenagers who still are left with the courage to save the world. So she talks about the unsurety of events that can happen over a million years. It means maybe she could not see the change. She could not see the uh, means warmth that got back, that will be getting back again, right, in future. So, and that means she might not see, but these teenagers who went with her, they could see it in the future. And that is what called as a kind of a means optimism, hopefulness, right? So overally, if you find out that it is the narrator, it is the author who narrate the means position of her with means 51 other members, she went to the kind of a place uh, which discovered which actually uh, create a kind of a means impact to the whole world, right? And her discovery is nothing but means indication about the safety of the earth, right? So and the means dangerous part of the earth. So you would say that the author's study of this region means made her useful actually. So she realized that means the geographical fact of separation of the landmass into various means continents and water bodies. So almost 650 million years ago, and that marks the beginning of the human race on the earth. Her pointing about the mammals started existing after dinosaurs became extinct, right? And that's what is nothing but the means landmarks separated. Okay. So do you understand this all, Aditi?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you see that also, the author stated about man's making a kind of a understanding about the Earth's present, past, and future. Uh, there is a question also in this particular section that why is Antarctica the place to go to understand the Earth's past, present, and future, or present, past, and future. So even the author beautifully mentioned that it is the place to go to understand the Earth's past, present, and future, because it gives us an idea of how the Earth was um, millions of years ago. So the melting sheets of ice give us an idea of the future to her also, right? So these are the things. If you have any doubts or query, please do ask.
What is the meaning of ubiquitous?
Ubiquitous means called as a means something that present everywhere.
Austral?
Austral. Austral, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
It's called as a relating to the southern hemisphere, right? So it is called as a 24-hour austral summer light.
Okay, sir.
Relating to the southern hemisphere.
Yes, sir.
So there is another word also, you can look into it, which is called as a kitted out. Kitted, kitted out. It's called as a means uh, giving something, right? That may be called as a wearing new uniforms or changing yourself, right? With the kind of a dress, those mean called as a kitted out.